Folks, Sir Charles Carey here one more time with the TRU MU Podcast, TRU Music Podcast. We've got another live show for you today. You ever run into somebody that you don't know at all, only to find out that you've got so much in common? Well, that's who our guest is today. That's how my guest came across to me in such a fashion as that. I didn't know her from nowhere. We're both professionals, and we in the speaking arena and the writing arena. We're authors, we're speakers, we're coaches and panelists, and we met. And it was just amazing to find out how many things we have and had in common, from our profession to our residence to where we came from. I mean, thing after thing after thing. And that's just an amazing energy, I guess you could say. So I'm going to present to some and introduce to others our guest today. She is a speaker. She is an author. She is a coach. She's done so many things. But today, it's all about music on the TRU MU Podcast. So let me bring her up so you can meet her as well. Tawanda.
Hey, how are you, Sir Charles?
Oh, I'm great. I'm great. Just trying to be part of the energy. How you?
Yes, I'm well. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, I'm glad you were available. There's so much going on. I know for myself as well as you, because when you're an entrepreneur, you got to make things happen.
Yes.
And I was just saying that it's kind of amazing when you meet someone and you just have no idea who they are, but only to find out that you've got so many different things in common. I was like, wow. So when we met, last year, whenever that was at the Congressional Black Caucus, I believe, only to find out that you're a speaker, I'm a speaker, you're an author, I'm an author, you're a coach. I'm like, come on, stop playing. and then to find out we're from some of the same neighborhoods, I'm like, man, you got to be kidding me. So it's definitely been interesting meeting you and finding out all the different things that you do and all the things that you're about. So I want to stay in order. I got a little bit of a structure here. I want to ask you to tell the audience a little bit about yourself, but let me make sure that I'm doing things right, okay? Got to put my specs on.
Yes.
Oh, man. I ain't gonna lie. There's so many times I'm trying to do stuff, and I know I can't see. And I'm like, why didn't you just keep your glasses on, right? All right. So the TRU MU Podcast is all about music. TRU Music Podcast. That's what TRU MU stands for. And we enjoy all things music because it's about the creativity. It's about the innovation. And most musicians or artists, creatives, whatever they are, or whatever they like to call themselves, enjoy the process of being creative. I know I do, and I'm sure that you do as well. So without any further delay, I want you to tell us a little bit about the other side of the mic. Tell them a little bit about what you do as a speaker, but then we're going to flip the script and go on the other side of the creative brain.
Okay. Well, like you said, all things creative, I love it. And it's funny because I think, some of it stems from having been an only child and had to create my own world in my room, right? And so that room was my stage. It was my space to explore and to tap into just all the creative energy. And then as I matured, I found outlets for that. Always sang in the children's choir, the youth choir. I participated in the plays and the fashion shows and all the things at the church as a youth. And it's interesting because I didn't do a lot in school creatively because I was on an honors track, and somebody decided that if you one, you couldn't be the other. So, that's a whole other conversation. But anyway, so I was on that track. So I didn't do a lot of that in school and dabbled a little bit in college. So it really wasn't until I got into my later 20s, that I really started. I'm sorry?
So just a few years ago.
Just a few years ago, or maybe a few years before a few years ago. Anywho, but began to explore, even more options and discovered other things that I could do. I know you mentioned that I'm a coach and an author. So yes, I've written several books and okay, 8. And just to mention a few. And I've also used my writing with theater. So
Well,
it gave me
so talk about that a little bit because you have actress. Is it a playwright or screenwrite?
I'm a playwright.
Playwright and actress, right?
Yes.
Okay. Talk a little
So
bit about that.
okay, so yes, so I've written and produced and directed 2 theatrical productions, 2 gospel theatrical productions, and but what I also did was I wrote the music for it,
Ah,
and so it's interesting because I don't write music in the typical sense, to
right.
sit down to a piano. I don't have that skill. However, I hear melodies. I'm one of those that'll wake up in the middle of the night, get the recorder, and start humming into the recorder or into the phone. Or, I hear things, I hear songs, and of course, because I'm a writer, I write lyrics. So for the 2 productions, I was able to put those skills to use along with a piano player. So I could say, da 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 da, and he would play da 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 da.
I was going to ask you, how did you go about that? Because I
Da
know
da 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 da.
singer-songwriters are phenomenal beings, even though they may not be the typical musician. So yeah,
Right, right. And it's funny because because I've been singing, so I know chords and I know what background should sound like. I have some skin in that game, but I would understand. I would say, okay, repeat that or invert that or go back up the scale that way. That those types of things I know enough to say or to identify.
right,
And
right.
so that process was so fulfilling for me because it was a different side of music, right?
Right.
But what was really phenomenal was to hear a band play my little da 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 da
So
da.
did you get a chance to have it like recorded video or something?
Yes, but recording for evaluation purposes only, not
Okay.
but I
Oh,
did
that's
get
okay.
to. Yes, I do have recording of it, and as a matter of fact, this was back when CDs were really a thing, and so like I have a CD of the music part of it, that can serve as a track or to sing along with or
Nice.
whatever. But hearing the band playing my song, like my dee 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 dee, it's indescribable. I can't even. And the first show that I did, the band was keyboard, bass, drums,
Okay.
the and sax. The second production had a 7-piece band. So it had,
Nice.
oh man, so it had all the fillers, percussion and guitar and bass, and so to hear what was in my head and to see people playing it and to hear people playing it was just amazing.
So let me ask you this. How long did it take to put the first production together?
Oh my. Ooh. Um
Like
this
a
was a
couple of
while
weeks,
back.
a couple of months?
I'll say a couple of months. That first production was actually in '08, and then we did it again in '09, and then the next production was 2012.
So how
And
long did it take
so
the second production to be put together since you had experience from the first one?
geez.
Like
Let's
months
see.
or
Yeah, it was a few months because, well, and the other thing is because I wrote it and I was the director and the producer of it, and also I was working with it for a long time. The actual rehearsals and all of that was about 8 weeks. And typically 8 weeks for non-professional
no,
musical
that's
production
okay though. But see,
is.
I'm sure there's so much that you learned in that process where, and I don't know who's going to hear this, but people that are creatives and they shy away from their creativity because they feel or figure that I can't play piano or I can't play an instrument. You're living proof that it can still be done.
Let me tell you this. It was so like I what I did was, went through the script, made a song list of, where I felt music should go, right?
Right.
Okay, this character is going to sing, this one's going to do a duet or whatever. Then I went back and I thought, well, what kind of feel do I want? This one to have a Caribbean feel, this one to be sort of a rap vibe, this one to be a R&B love vibe, this one to be very gospel or whatever. And then I filled in the blanks from there. And like I said, I would wake up in the middle of the night and I would have that da 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 in my head. But what is interesting is, God brings you all of what you need when you need it. So I would say that before that process, I didn't know I could do that, right?
Okay.
Maybe messing around here and there, I might hear a song in my heart or whatever. But it was when it was needed, what I needed was there.
Right.
And working with the two musicians that I worked with, two different ones for each production, they were just phenomenal. I mean, we would go in the little room. The one young man, he was out at Bowie State, and that's where I did my master's, and I had done some theater with those folks, so that's how I got to meet him. And we would go into this little small practice room with a piano and a notebook, and we would just go at it,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
oh man, and it was just that process was, it was indescribable. So I would say, if you have an idea, start taking the steps, the rest of it will find you.
Wow, that's amazing. Folks, if you're just joining us, we're speaking with Tawanda Prince, entrepreneur extraordinaire, I'd say, because she wears and has worn so many different hats on both sides of the stage or the platform, I would say, from speaker, coach, author to performer, playwright, actress, director, So do not take it lightly and do not take your gifts lightly, because she is living proof that if you want a thing bad enough, you can have it. And it doesn't have to be a formal approach. Just take your time and think it through, and you can make it happen. If it can happen for her, it can happen for you. Would that make good sense?
Yes, and also too, I want to add in, I don't know if you know, I'm a drummer.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Yeah. Now,
So
where did you pick up your drumming or your percussion background?
okay, so I've always wanted to play the drums, and my daddy said, girls don't play drums. Either you play piano or violin or nothing. So I said, well, nothing. I don't want to play anything. But when I was in my early 20s, I worked for New York City Housing Authority summer program,
Okay.
and they had a drum and bugle corps.
Okay.
So that came out of the same office that I was working in. So the
Right.
guy gave me a set of sticks, and he showed me like the 7 basic rudiments,
You play
paradiddle,
paradiddle?
flamadiddle, right, flam. And I would just kind of tap, 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 tap on a phone book or whatever. Oh, for those of you that don't know what a phone book is,
Right,
it
right,
used to
right.
be this thick book, and but that's all I knew. And then fast forward maybe a good 8 years or so, whatever it was. I was at church one day, and we had this young drummer guy, and I went over to him and I said, teach me how to play this thing. And
Ah,
he said, well, I'll show you something. So he showed me a little ditty. I call him a ditty. And it was this little rhythm and then a fill. And I sat down. Honestly, it was like God anointed my hands and my feet. Because, when you play the drums, each hand and each foot is doing something different.
right.
So it's not just bang, 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 right? You have to really have some coordination going on there. Something happened, and I could play what he played.
Okay.
And so I
Did he
played
did he
around with
did he,
that.
did he fall out?
Huh?
Did he
I'll
shock?
tell you what happened. No, so I did that or whatever. And it was either the next week or the following week. He did not come back to church.
Really?
So guess who became the drummer?
Whoa,
And
really?
I was very basic. But what I would do was every time we would visit a church or I would go somewhere else, I would always sit near the drummer and I would try to pick up some little trick, some little ding, 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 something to enhance what I had. I had the basic thing down and I could do a little,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
that's how I learned. I picked up because it was all in my spirit anyway. And so that's how that came about.
So I'm so
And
curious. What did you ever meet the other guy or see him again ever?
yes, as a matter of fact, he played last year at my mom's funeral. He eventually came back to the church. We're talking, this was at the time I was, I think, maybe 28 or something like that. So we're talking decades ago. And and so he went on, to do whatever he did, but he came back to the church, and he he plays for special occasions and blah, blah, blah. But I'm no longer at that church. I moved from that area because that was in the Bronx.
Right, right,
But
right. Okay.
yeah, but that's how that came about. And so then other opportunities opened up. I used to play for First Baptist of Glen Arden for the praise team there, and I've done a few little things with it.
And
So
what about your, because this is the TRU MU Podcast, True Music Podcast. Now I know you're a vocalist as well.
yeah.
I caught a couple of clips of you on YouTube. Ah, you didn't know about that. Ah,
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
So when did you start singing?
So I always sang, like I said, children's choir, youth choir, and I've always had this sort of heavy voice, and so which wasn't cool as a little girl, But then as I grew up, I kind of realized, okay, I'm working with something here.
Right.
And in college, sing a little bit, talent shows, things like that. And again, mostly singing at church, but then I crossed over into musical theater.
Okay.
And I guess the first big production, if you will, where I sang was in The Wiz. I played Eveline at Bowie State. And from then on, I just continued to do theater and sing and do things. And
You know, I'm thinking about, that whole journey of creativity, how sometimes we do talent shows or we want to audition for things, and I kind of got a love-hate feeling or relationship with talent shows. I kind of felt like I knew I could sing and I would sing, and then I'm like, but why do I always want to put myself in front of someone to judge me, to tell me if I'm good or not, or if I can win? And I started kind of resenting the whole talent show type thing as a young guy. And when I got my band, I was like just so full of like, yeah, I don't need to prove that I could do this and prove that I could do that. But I do understand it is a part of the nurturing process and the developmental process of becoming an artist, regardless to what type of artist. So
right. And I wasn't looking to pursue a singing or musical career. This is really a hobby thing for
okay,
me. Obviously I do some things, I get paid for some things or whatever, but I wasn't looking to become the next
Stephanie Mills or whatever.
Right, right. That wasn't, the direction that I was headed in. I just was sort of, feeling my way through and taking advantage of opportunities that came my way, doing things that I enjoyed, putting myself in the circle with people that allowed me to do my thing.
So do you remember Showbiz and the Village Voice?
I remember the Village Voice.
Showbiz was one of the trade papers. I used to go on casting calls for sometimes acting, but mostly for singing. Somebody looking for someone for a band, or someone needs a singer for a project. And I got a couple of gigs doing that, and I was like so shocked. I don't think I was shocked because I had the talent. I knew I had the talent, but I was so shocked that the process worked. You get a paper, you scour the paper like a classified.
Right.
Someone says looking for a vocalist, and they give you the type of vocalist they want, or they may say soul, R&B, whatever. And then you call them up, and then you go down there and maybe sing a little something, and they be like, yeah. And then they want to hire you. And I was like, oh, wow. So knowing that the process actually worked was very inspiring for me. Did you ever go go on any casting calls coming up?
Not like that. There's only one I went to a Broadway audition for Bringing the Noise, Bringing the Funk.
That
I don't
sounds
know.
familiar. What
It was a phenomenal play. Savion Glover was in that,
is that
and
with the trash cans?
no, that's well, yeah, they might have had trash cans in that one too. There's another one that did that, but this
Okay.
particular one, it was the tap dancers. It was a lot of
Oh,
tap dancing,
so you
and
tap as well?
no, 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 I don't do that. But there was only one female role, so it was one character called the Voice, and I went for it. You know, I didn't necessarily think, okay, I'm gonna get it, but it's my shot as well as anybody else's. But just having that experience was very interesting. And I was living in Maryland at the time, and I went up to New York for the audition, and went through all the paces, so I truly understand what that's like, and it was very intense. Lots of people trying for that one role, and you know it was,
Oh,
but
that's
it was a great
amazing.
experience. It was a
Now,
great experience.
let me ask you this. I watch, I'm like a YouTube addict. I watch podcasts. I watch DIY stuff. I watch um nature stuff, all
Mhm.
kinds of stuff. But I like podcasts, music podcasts most importantly, and I like success and survivor stories. So I watch a lot of things along those lines. So I'm always engaged with how someone maybe have gotten lost in the woods and they found their way out, or they were rescued, or when it comes to music, the journey that different artists from the past and even from current artists have taken and what some of their experiences are. Are you a podcast person at all?
I don't do a lot of that, but it's something that's been on my list. And it's funny that you talk about, the survival stories or whatever. We both have one. I'll share briefly, but I am a four-time heart attack survivor, but and quadruple bypass and a number of other things. But what is so interesting is today is my 26th anniversary. So it was 26 years ago that I went through, that I had the first heart attack, and then the other three came 5 days later.
Mm.
But it was so significant that we're here today, because it was after that point that
Hmm.
I began to live like somebody left the gate open.
Wow.
And in so doing, that's what allowed me to explore all these other things, you know, um, not being fearful, not being hesitant, because I always felt like you better get it done now. You better do this now, right?
Right.
Because we don't know what, I couldn't foresee 26 years down the line, right? So I
Wow.
had to do whatever it was in my hands or within my means to do at the time. And
Hmm.
so so that has fueled my creativity, or
Yeah.
my willingness to express the creativity and
Okay. Okay.
explore.
So let me ask you this now, because the podcast is a new podcast, but I like things that are engaging and intertwined, or intertwined and intermingled with sort of different aspects. When it comes to music, what's the style that you like? Not necessarily to perform, but maybe to perform. What's the style you lend yourself to? Music styles.
So I love jazz, love
Ah,
R&B, love gospel. What's interesting is because I have a sort of a unique voice. So, like when I sing in choir, I sing tenor,
okay.
um, and really baritone a lot of
Hey.
because and also what has happened to me, you know, traditionally or early on, of course, I was thrown in with the altos. And then
Okay.
at some point, I split myself off. It was actually a small ensemble, a choir that I sang with, and the way they had us lined up, it was only three altos, excuse me. It was three altos, maybe two or three tenors and one bass or whatever. But the way they would have us stand, I stood next to that tenor guy. And so it was such a nice blend with his voice and my voice and the other lady. Like we, it just blended nicely. So anyway, moving on from there, I started whenever they would say, "Oh, what do you say?" "Oh, tenor, put me with the tenors." And so, so a lot of contemporary music, but so I struggle because the pieces that I sing are oftentimes not songs that are traditionally women songs because the key is too high
I
for
got
me.
you. I got you.
And if you're not singing with the band, like if you're singing with the track or something like that, you often can't adjust it, right? So
Yeah,
if it's with a band,
yeah.
I can get them to bring the key down to what's
Right.
comfortable. Another interesting thing is when I had my heart surgery and all, I had to be intubated where they, put the tube down your throat.
Yeah.
And when they remove it, it goes past all your stuff. And they remove it, it comes back off. And so there was a little bit of change in my voice
Oh,
from that experience.
it's funny that you're saying that because my second bout with cancer, I had a growth on my vocal cord, and afterwards I got real scared. Not scared because of the cancer, but I was afraid to sing because I didn't think it would sound right. I would sound right, and I
Mhm.
kind of shied away from it. I don't know if I was in denial or if I don't know what I thought, but I kind of like felt like, oh no, I can't sing, because I didn't want to test it. I didn't want to do anything because I wasn't sure what would happen. Now, I don't know what I was thinking. Maybe it's just the impact of that experience for me, but it was really unnerving. And then after a point, I guess because of my love for music, I just worked through it anyway. And,
Mhm.
and just, kind of like forgot about the fear or the uncertainty and just forced myself to move forward regardless.
Right.
That was a real experience for me. I remember.
Right. And for me, it's sort of like this may sound weird. It's sort of like I can't. Certain octaves, certain things are missing. Like I can do a scale or whatever. Then like that next note is just not there. It's like
I know
so I kind of
the
go above
reality.
it or whatever. But it's certain things are just not there.
The reality is,
Mm,
because of all the damage that I caused on myself earlier in my life,
mm,
smoking and using drugs and stuff like that, I would
mhm,
not be surprised if I had polyps. So,
mm.
but I've never looked into it, and at this
Right.
point, I'm like, I know how to work around stuff, so I'm
That
not
is
trying.
right. Exactly.
I am not even
Exactly.
going to go there. So, it
Exactly.
just is what it
Exactly.
is.
But I
So,
love singing. I do love singing. And I have recently had some opportunities come up to do some solo work or, more of that type of performance. I'm also a poet and I have 3 poetry books, but I do this combination of poetry and singing. So, that's something that I enjoy. So I may take a song like What's Going On, which is probably what you saw on YouTube, and and then I'll sing the first part of it, and then I'll use one of my pieces in the middle, and then come back with a piece of the song. So I like doing that, mixing the two
nice.
things together and putting my spin on it.
Let me give a quick shout out to Jean Durr. That's my girl, Jean. We worked together for many years, and I used to have a place in Forestville. Actually, it was a Starbucks, and Jean would come by and sing. Man, she is a crazy triple threat. She's a singer, she's a speaker, she's a
Mhm.
humorist, and I'll be working on Jean, trying to get her out and get in the public so she can share her gift, and also.
Yes.
And also want to give a shout out to my girl Sharon Parker. They made some comments about our conversation here. So thanks,
Oh,
ladies,
okay.
for coming through. Definitely appreciate your comments and definitely appreciate your time as well. Absolutely. Thanks so
Yes.
much.
Yes. Great. Great. So I'm grateful that I have these different arenas that I can play in. But sometimes, I get distracted because you can only work on so many things at one time,
Yes,
So it's like,
we get
well,
it.
okay, I'm
Yeah,
writing a book right now. I don't have time to do a play, but okay, or I'm doing a play right now. Don't have time to create, something else. And, I'm also a
totally
visual
get it.
artist too. So I paint and things like that came about during the pandemic, when we were all shut down and shut up in the house. I took out
So
painting
look.
some.
So let me push the issue a little bit more. I know you like jazz, you like gospel. Now, regardless of what style, are
Mhm.
there any groups? Now, there's a difference between a group and a band, right? So I'm not
Yeah.
trying to sound crazy, but are there any groups that you particularly like? Past or present, doesn't matter.
Oh boy. Well, I mean, the if we go, pass,
Yeah,
there's like Gladys Knight and the Pips and those types
okay.
of groups, the R&B
Yeah,
groups.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, Currently, I have quite a few friends in the industry. And
Okay.
so I find myself supporting, a lot of the local artists. I go to as many of the things as I can, spur of the moment, Kevin Jackson, Brian Lanier, Craig Alston, friends with Mesa, these people, I go to a lot of those things. I go to a lot of the jazz fests and,
Okay.
so,
Have you ever
they
gone down to Westminster in Southwest?
you know what now? That has been on my list, and I am ashamed to say that I have not gotten down there yet. But I know Vince, and Vince is down there,
Yes,
isn't he?
Evans?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, I know Vince, and he used to do a workshop at his house for singers, and I had attended that a couple of times. This was many years ago, and I got a chance to play drums with Vince
Ah,
at
nice. Vince is
uh
awesome. I mean, I love Vince.
oh,
Vince is a
he's
great guy.
phenomenal. At it was, I think, First Baptist of Deanwood, and they had a Women's Day. So a lot of times I get called for Women's Day gigs because I was a women drummer.
Nice.
So I got a chance to play with him one time. So that was like, oh, I'm excited.
Vince would back me up sometimes when I go down there to do maybe Everything Must Change or
Oh
whatever.
yeah,
Yeah,
oh
yeah.
yeah,
I love
yeah.
his playing style also.
Yes, and he has a nice touch. I'm into the touch. There's a difference. There's skill and then there's touch.
Right.
I mean, he has both, but if you listen real closely, or even if you watch how
Right.
the maestro touches the keys, it varies from artist to artist.
For sure, for sure. Yeah. No, I
Yes.
used to go look, I used to go there every Friday and just like wait for the break, jump in and maybe do a song or two if I could. But
Yes.
look, Dick Smith would always get me. Come on, man, you got to do that straight ahead jazz. Don't be trying to do this contemporary stuff.
No R&B, no R&B. Right.
But the
And I
audience
think,
loved it. The audience
yeah.
loved
Well, because people, you want to hear vocals sometimes. You want to sing along with things,
it.
I
Yeah.
like a lot of the standards though. Now, in terms of jazz, like I love standards. I grew up, my father was a singer and he was into classical and jazz. So
Nice.
when he passed, I inherited his collection, Wes
Wow.
Montgomery and Sonny Rollins and all these people. But I grew up on all those classics. My mother loved, they loved Nancy Wilson, Gloria Lynn,
Uh-huh.
those types of singers. And so I grew up not only hearing it, but my phrasing and things, I
Oh wow.
think, resembles
Nancy
what I
Wilson was
know.
awesome. Nancy
You
Wilson was
know,
awesome. I tell
yeah.
you.
I mean, I'm not comparing myself to Nancy, please.
No,
I
no, no,
definitely
no.
not. Well, I'm saying, but just the feeling, and the
But that
I
was a
just
look, that was a she came from and the artist her, Lou Rawls, Eartha Kitt, they were from a time when professionals did their thing with a certain je ne sais quoi, a certain care.
yes,
And I
yes.
watched them religiously. I mean, Sammy Davis Jr., Nat King Cole, Lou Rawls, I mean, Dean Martin. Oh man,
All of those folks. It's
all
a
those
fun,
guys.
yes. Funny little story, but in college I pledged a sorority and they nicknamed me Sammy Davis Jr. because they said I was the entertainer.
Okay.
So
Hey,
that was my nickname was Sammy Davis Jr. And some of them still call me Sammy from that, but it's true because he was so well rounded. He did it
man,
all.
Sammy could juggle. He could do stand up. He could act. He could play drums. He could play
Yes,
trumpet. He could
yes,
sing. He could
yes.
dance. I mean, Sammy never ran out of work.
No, he didn't. He didn't. He
I
definitely
mean, I
did not.
remember seeing A Man Called Adam, and I was a little guy, but I just knew it was Sammy Davis Jr. I didn't know what the story's about, but I had to go see it because it was him. And at
Right,
the
right,
time, there weren't a lot of us in the limelight, you
right,
know.
right.
So
But he was able to infiltrate past color lines, and that was great.
yeah,
But yeah, so I love standards. I love
oh yeah,
those classic tunes. They never grow old. As a matter of fact, there's a group here in Baltimore, and they meet once a week at the community center in Randallstown on Tuesdays, actually. But it's a workshop, community workshop, and it's musicians, a lot of the old cat. I call them the old cats, come and they play. There's a few vocalists, and we play only the standards. And
okay,
so we're doing Take the A Train and Satin Doll and
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Summertime
yeah.
and all those things. And I just
Blues
absolutely love
and all that
it.
good stuff.
Absolutely
Yeah.
love
Well, look, I know you're going to be joining us in March at the
it.
True Lovers Tour, and I'm excited about it. The last time I did a show there, well, I went to an open mic there, which
Mhm.
thank you for so much for coming to support. I
Yes.
didn't know what to expect, but that was a pretty nice event. But prior to
Mhm.
that open mic, I did my own show there, album release and listening party, and that was like packed. People came out. In fact, Gene came, Sharon came. They were just on the making comments here on our
Yes.
broadcast. But I mean, it's a wonderful place, and I'm looking forward to seeing you do your thing. We're gonna have a great lineup with myself and Carl T. Smith, who's also from the Bronx. Um,
Uh-huh.
so the band Soul City Collective, John R. Lewis, Smoke D from Washington D.C., and yours truly, Tawanda Prince. So we're looking forward to this event on March 21st. So come on
Yes.
out, y'all. Come get your tickets. Go to Sir Charles Carey. In fact, the trailer has got the website. Go to the website, get your tickets. It's only $20. There will be refreshments. We're gonna go all out again. If you like true R&B, romance, ballads, you're gonna get an earful because that's what it's all about at the True Lovers Tour, and I'm just excited. So yeah, but there's just so much to do and so much going on. Do you have any other events coming up prior to the 21st of March?
Not at this time. I recently auditioned for a couple of productions, so I'm waiting for the results of those, but those wouldn't be until June. One is in May, one is in June. Just depends on, if I get those or which one or whatever.
Nice.
And got a new book that just came out. So I'm going to be launching that, doing it like an official launch book party sometime in February, but I don't have all those details together yet.
I
So
got you. I got you. That's all good. That's all good.
just
But
always keep the wheels turning.
so how can people contact you in regards to if they need a drummer, they need a singer, they need a speaker, how can people contact you?
Okay, so my website is always available, and that's tawandaprince.com. That's TAWANDA Prince, PRINCE.com. And they can reach me on Facebook too. And it's Tawanda Brathwaite Prince on Facebook. There's a few Tawanda Princes, which how I don't know. But anyway, Tawanda Brathwaite Prince, that's me, and you'll see my face there, and so those are, there she is. Okay.
There she is. Yeah. So by all means, folks, check her out if you need it for whatever type of an event. But we definitely would love for you to come on out to the True Lovers Tour. We're gonna have a smashing time. I mean, an all-star lineup. John Lewis, Tawanda Prince, who's right here with us today. Smoke D, Soul City Collective, Carl T. Smith, the smooth one. That's what he's known as from New York City. And yours truly, Sir Charles Carey. And trust me, don't come if you're not ready because we're bringing it. That's
Yeah,
just how it's going down. It's going to be all the way live because, you know, I think when you get to a certain point in life, yeah, you do what you do, but it's like I ain't taking no prisoners.
that's
You
right.
know,
That's right.
my biggest competition is me.
There you go. There
I
you
don't
go.
need to compete with nobody but me. I gotta
Yeah.
always outdo me. I gotta make sure
Yes.
I show up and show out, and that's exactly what I plan on doing. So,
Yes, yes. I'm
I'm
so excited to be a part of it. And again, I thank you for inviting me. I just recently relocated back to the DMV. I had moved down to Hampton Roads for 5 years. And so I just came back this past summer. And so I'm excited to, get in to groove here in the DMV and looking forward to by the time the summer comes, when things are really popping, popping, popping,
that's
that
what's
I'll
up.
be able to, do
Yeah,
more.
I'm putting my feelers out there too. I'm trying to stay busy, trying to stay active and do all
Yes.
the things that come natural to me that I love doing and that people know me for. So, folks, if you're just joining us, please understand we may be wrapping up, but you can still leave comments, ask questions. We will get back to you. Definitely come check out the show, SirCharlesCareyMusic.com to get your tickets for the event coming up March 21st, 2025. On any other comments you'd like to make, if you want to tell us what your favorite music style is, or what group you like, I'd like to hear that too. For me, I can just say this: my style, I think I've always liked the ballads. I've liked
Mhm.
the Philip Bailey's, the Whispers, that's the group, but I love the slow stuff, the romance songs, being a romantic at heart. And I think people, they thought I was crazy when I told them I like the Whispers more than the
Love the Whispers.
Temptations. I mean, I like the Temptations, but the Whispers, those are my guys.
They were the top. That yes,
Yeah,
definitely.
those are my
Definitely.
guys.
Yes.
And but that's my spiel and my thing. We all have our own little preference, but yeah, it's all good though.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
with that being said, what anything else that you like to share with us before we roll out?
No, I can't think of anything else. Come on out and see us in March and tell a friend.
Tell a friend, bring a friend, and be a friend. Come on and check us
Yes.
out because we're gonna be doing it, y'all. And so, with that
Yes.
being said, until next time, be part of the energy.
Yes.
We'll
Yes.
see you next
Thank you
time.
again.
Absolutely.
Okay. Bye bye.